I'm not going to talk too much about the introduction because a lot of people have already spoken about it, but Ogaden is also known as Western Somali region, or Ogadenya. It's the easternmost region of Ethiopia's 9 ethnic divisions, and it borders Djibouti to the north, Kenya to the southwest, and Somalia to the north, east and south. Just a brief history, the numerous resistance movements against Ethiopian colonialism have existed dating all the way back to the times of Ahmed Gurey in the 16th century. This suggests that the relationship between Ethiopia and the Ogaden has always been one of hostility and not of friendliness. The population is approximately 7.8 million. We can't trust consensuses carried out by Ethiopia because, of course, they have their own agenda. Ethnicity, Somali, religion predominantly Islam, and with square kilometers of approximately 400,000. That's just a map to show you where it's located. Before I start talking about the situation and the human rights violations, it's important to understand why things are the way they are, and also to understand the reasoning behind why the government carries out the atrocities that they carry out. So I've got some quotes from former rulers of Ethiopia. The first one is of Haile Selassie in 1945. This is exactly what he said. It's in his own words. It's to show you what they intend to do and what their aim is and what they're doing until today. What he said was, I have to restore the independence of my country, including Eritrea and the Banadid, whose people will henceforth dwell under the shade of the Ethiopian flag. This suggests to you a very clear expansionist attitude and an expansionist approach. Another example below is an imperialist seeking aid from another imperialist. Menelik in 1878 writes a letter to Italy, France, Germany and England requesting their assistance. My country is far distant from your country, my road to the coast, and I underlined my because he feels that the land belongs to him essentially. He feels that Somalia and all regions where Somalians inhabit belongs to him. My road to the coast, to Zayla, to Tajura and Aden is at present closed by the Muslims. They prevent by receiving into my country provisions, arms, agricultural implements, artisans, or even messengers of the gospel. Will you kindly raise your powerful voice in order that I may have this way open for me? For I desire to inaugurate in my country European civilizations, intelligence, and arts. This suggests to you that we cannot consider this country as a fellow African brother because, as you see, dating all the way back to 1878, this is the letter that an Ethiopian ruler wrote to colonial powers, to imperialist powers, essentially asking for their help and asking them to help fight Somalis, not just living in Ogaden, but all Muslims living around that area. So this is to give you an understanding of the kind of hatred that exists, the kind of hostility and the kind of the attitude that they have towards the people in the region. So what do we gather from that? It's very important to understand, as I've said repeatedly, that it's not a friend. Ethiopia is not a friend, and contrary to popular belief, it's also not the center of black liberation. A lot of people tend to say Ethiopia has never been colonized, it's the greatest African nation because it hasn't been colonized. In fact, I'd go as far as saying that it's probably the worst because it was collaborating with those that were enslaving their fellow brothers in Africa. So the center of black struggle and liberation is not Abyssinia. Abyssinia is a center of African colonialism, a European proxy state modeled by colonialism in which Europe supported Abyssinian expansions into African nations using European firearms. So the weapons that they were using to kill innocent civilians were essentially provided to them by the West. So Abyssinian tyrants were practicing slavery and colonizing Africans in the 1800s. This is just a side note, by the way, that I included, that Haitian revolutionaries freed slaves and annihilated the white slave owners. It's just a comparison between who actually fought for black liberation as opposed to those who didn't.